All Three Beards Media podcasts originate from the Gravitate Co-working Studio, sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company.
What's up, everyone? Coming at you live from the Gravitate Co-working Studio, sponsored by Revelton Distillery. Guys, what's up?
Not much. Glad to be back at it again.
Yeah, kind of, when we got caught back up and then got to Wednesday and started getting playoff games again, it kind of messed our schedule up. So we'll explain a little bit more about that later. But kind of crazy time for us right now.
Absolutely.
I kind of forgot what day it is, actually. Sunday?
Right.
Sunday. Okay.
How many times do we say, what game are you on and who are you with? And I feel like I repeat that like 3 times a day and I still don't know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Me either.
Hard to keep up.
For sure.
Yes, it is. Hey, let's recap last episode. Jim had Fool's Rules reaching in. That's a popular one.
Yes.
I heard that numerous times this week too.
Yeah, not everybody's listening to the podcast. I mean, but we talked about that. We're players can reach in. They can do that. If they make contact, then we've got to decide if that contact is illegal, and we're going to call foul. So, if you want to say she hit her, you can say that, but don't say reaching in anymore because it's not there.
Yep. That was good. Ben, you got anything to add?
I don't think so. I mean, to Jim's point, you
hear it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think when a player is trying to go for a steal, that's just there had to have been contact. They're reaching in, blah, blah, blah. Well, we have a lot of athletic players in Iowa, and a lot of them can make a steal without making contact. It's not always just contact. So, we have room for more listeners and more people to learn, I guess.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Come one, come all. And then we had Gene Berger on, who is the executive director of the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union. And that was very, very insightful. I enjoyed having Gene on.
Absolutely. Always good to talk to Gene.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of information there that was just fantastic. And, we appreciate her taking busy time out of her schedule. I think they were at Girls State Wrestling that week in Coralville. So she was busy. I'm assuming a meeting room or hotel room when she did that interview with us. So we appreciate that. But interesting to hear a lot of her stories and things coming up for the girls union. And of course, talking about the Iowa girl and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. And then the possible push for girls flag football. That was cool.
Yeah. Isn't that I don't know if you've heard from many people about it, but it was something that kind of like, wow, that's interesting. And they talk about the NFL being involved and the Minnesota Vikings being involved. And, one of the first thing I started talking to some friends with was about like, when would that fit? Just in the calendar year or with other sports and stuff. And I think Gene replied to me that, they would probably try to start that in the junior high level and try it a few years before it got to high school. But I think, didn't she say late spring for junior high because they wouldn't have soccer? But then potentially once it got to high school, it would be during fall, like normal football, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes and the progression of that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And Jim, you want to coach it, right?
Absolutely, that'd be fun. I loved coaching football before, and this would be cool. I always like a whole new challenge, so that'd be cool.
Oh, heck
That would
yeah.
be fun.
So
Good stuff. Hey, let's move on. Jim, you want to give us a little update on the Melcher Dallas gym progress?
Yeah, these will be the probably the last pictures anybody's going to see until we unveil the new gym. We kind of want to keep everything else a secret in that. So we are in the process of this next week. They will be staining inside the 3-point lines and then marking the 3-point lines. So they basically have that right there is they've just put, I think, 5 coats of linseed oil on that. So that's what it looks like now. That's kind of a side view. Those are our 2 side baskets. That's from up above. This is a really cool view. We have a weight room on the south side, and we have some windows there that you can actually look down and see the gym floor. So it's kind of it's got some cool things to it. Actually, and you see the 2 windows that are on the very far edges. Those are just reflections from the windows behind me because we have just the 3 windows down in the gym down there. So those other 2 big ones are from the other direction. So it's well, yeah, because yes, we have the 3 windows, I think, in there now. You can see the reflections. So yeah. But that was kind of a panoramic view to see from east to west in there, and it just, I think it has a little bit more character than some of the gyms that are being built today. A lot of the gyms that are being built today have no natural light in them at all, and I know sometimes people complain about that, saying, well, gets in the eyes sometimes of the volleyball players during those early matches and that. But, I just think it adds a little more character to our gym. So, and that's the window you can see from there. That's the weight room up there.
Gotcha.
Okay. I really like the wood grain in the floor.
Yeah, it really turned out.
You don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch them put that floor down. They actually did the whole floor. Not the oil part of it, but just laying the floor, the top section there, they did it 2 days. So, I mean, they had 10 guys in there working and people laying boards down and other ones nailing it. And it was a pretty neat process to watch. But like I said, we're kind of next week, we're into starting painting the gym floor lines and everything. Bleachers will come in a few weeks later. We're hoping, that the kids will at least get to have some PE in there this April and May, so that'll be nice. The classrooms, a lot of them are close to completion. We also put in there a music room, a shop, an ag room, an art room, and then the front is office space. So once we're all done, I'll kind of take a video tour of it, and we can put it on the podcast sometime later on. But really excited about it. The kids are super excited. I mean, they've been without a gym for 3 years.
That's
so
crazy.
It that just doesn't happen very often. It happened to do with having to deal with the time of COVID. It had to do with insurance from the old gym, and it had to do with passing a bond issue. And then you had the part of every project you do goes over budget, so then you decide what you're going to cut and so forth. So here it is. It's when we get it done, I think it's going to be one of the nicer gyms around in Class 1A. I mean, I really think it'll be one of the nicer ones. So it's exciting.
Jim, you told us too that each board is laid down one at a time, right? It's not big pieces.
No, underneath there's underlayment that's 4x8 sheets of plywood that they actually run diagonally through the whole floor. It's kind of crazy to see that with a foam rubber underneath it to give it just a little bit of cushion there. And then all these boards are laid individually. They've got one guy putting them in, another guy's got a little nailer that's got rollers on it. He just rolls along, hits it with a hammer, and nails it. And it is amazing to watch them. They move. They don't waste any time.
Nice.
Cool. And is that weight room that you can see there, is that brand new also?
Everything's going to be new. I will, once we get everything up there, we'll take some pictures of that too. I've got some renderings of some of the stuff. So we'll have all new racks for bench press, squat racks. they will all be branded. So they'll be kind of a black. They'll have some maroon plates on them that will say Saints on them. Every weight that we have will have a fleur-de-lis on it and say Saints on them. And so, and all the dumbbells, same thing, will be branded to Melcher Dallas Saints. So, the kids have waited a long time for this. They deserve it, and it's going to be really cool once it's done.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the community is going to be able to use the weight room too. So that's a nice thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Saint Pride.
Absolutely.
Saint Pride.
Jim, what else? You had something else pretty cool go on at Melcher Dallas in this past week. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Our girls basketball team had a great season. We talked about earlier, they won the conference tournament. They won their first round regional game, lost in the second round to a really good Sigourney team that, plays in a very tough conference with Montezuma, Linville Sully, North Mahaska, who are all really good teams. And they came over and we played the first half, didn't play very well, got down by 30 and ended up outscoring them in the second half. So that we played well, and they finished a great season. In that game, the young lady I talked about last week, Addison Wadley, she scored her 1,000th point as a junior. So we didn't, really couldn't celebrate it a lot at the game because it was a regional game. So our coach, I talked to her. She took a timeout as soon as she hit her 14th point. And we had Addie didn't know any of this. We had the kids, the cheerleaders had a big sign, 1,000th point, and then talking about can't wait for more next year on the sign, so really cool. Her family had T-shirts that they had on underneath underneath another shirt that they were pink and had something to say about the 1,000 points. So it was really cool. Like I've told you last week, I talked to Jean. Jean and her are pretty close. I kind of almost forgot, but I texted Jean early that morning and told her, hey, she's 14 points away from 1,000. And Jean says, oh my gosh, I got to get there. Where's the game at? So she came down to Southeast Warren, watched that, and that was really, really neat to have her there.
Cool.
Nice. That's good stuff. Congrats to her.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, congratulations to our coaches and whole team. I mean, 18-5 on the season. That's, anytime you get above 15 wins, it's a really good year. So that was very good for them, and proud of them, and can't wait for next year to start again.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
And to play in our new gym.
Even better.
Yes.
All right. Hey, Ben, you want to recap the last couple weeks, I guess?
Man, we got a lot here. It's
we do.
Crazy time, and so many, we always talk about weird things, but gosh, we've had it all, it feels like. So let's start with that. I believe it was a Thursday, February 1st. We went to Coon Rapids, and that was me and Sam and Casey. Coon Rapids bared against ACGC. Pretty competitive 2 games, really. Good hospitality, got a full pizza there. Nice little travel. So we enjoyed that one.
Yep.
The next day was when things kind of started getting really So all 3 of us were scheduled to go to Pella Christian against Pella, which is obviously a great rivalry and a great game. And shoot, what was it? 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock that morning, Jim, you're like,
I think it was maybe even 12 or 12:30. I mean, I thought that I was going to get better. I had kind of stomach cramps, and then I'm like, I think it'll pass. Well, it wasn't passing by about 12:30, and I text Ben and said, "And I'm not feeling very well. I'm not sure I can go tonight."
It passed eventually.
Oh, it did pass. I mean, I left school early at like 2:00, and I didn't even make it home before I had to open up the car door and let some of it go. So I got a little sick, and I was sick all weekend long. Started feeling better about Monday, and then we refed again on Tuesday. But thank God Casey Pelzer was available, and he lives in Atlantic, which is like 2.5 hours from Pella. So grateful that we have people like that help out and can do those games, because there was no way after I got home that day after school, and there was no way I could have ran up and down the floor. So.
Yeah, that's one of those things people probably don't know about is there's not generally a ton of substitutes available.
Right.
It's not like teaching where you can just call your list and get your substitute in. It's kind of like frantic.
Yeah.
So as soon as you said that, I said, we need to start looking. So I, went through my contacts, contacted a couple of signers, was like, hey, do you have anybody? They might be available, might not. Started down the list, couldn't get anybody. Talked to Casey, he's like, I'm actually free. And I'm like, holy cow, but it's 2.5 hours, I think, from Atlantic to Pella.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he had to come, or we were going to run 2-man, which would not have been great.
That would not have been good on that one.
No, especially in 2 really competitive games. And then the next thing was we were concerned about the timing because, him being a principal and getting over there. So we were planning on maybe even starting that first game with 2-man, but he made it fine and had a really good night. So there was Sam. Do you want to talk about this? There was a weird moment. I mean, there was lots of weird moments that night. It felt like we had to talk about 10 times during the game. But the major weird thing, do you want to talk about that at all?
The scoring discrepancy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was the girls' game. We go into halftime, and I think it was you remember the score, Ben?
I want to say it was 31-20 Pella over Pella Christian at halftime.
Yep. Okay, 31-20. And then we came out from halftime, started the second half, and during a dead ball, Casey gets called over to the scorer's table, and there's a discrepancy in the score because the scoreboard said 22, and Pella Christian hadn't scored any points in the second half yet. So Ben and Casey go to the scorer's table, try to sort it out, look at both the books. Both the books say 20 points, and the ladies keeping the book said that it was either the radio broadcast or the live stream broadcast. They came down at halftime and they said, hey, you missed a couple points. It should be 22. So they just thought, we'll just change it. We'll put 22 on the scoreboard. So that was kind of strange. I mean, that was probably, 8 to 10 minutes trying to sort that out.
Yeah, it feels like an eternity on the floor, especially, that rivalry game, the gym was completely full. So it just feels like you're getting stared at and everybody's wondering what the heck is going on. But again, we've probably talked about this every episode, is like the things you think would never happening like this, and how do you sort it out and how do you get it right during the game? But ultimately, the fact that both books agreed that 20 was the right number, we can't go to the monitor or any sort of media for scoring changes or play review or anything like that in high school. So luckily the books agreed that we should be at 20, and that's where we ended up at. And, didn't affect the game. It didn't end up a 2-point game or anything like that. So that was good, but just another one of those moments for sure that we had. So I blame Jim, honestly, for.
I figured that would be my fault somehow, but and that's a game that I did not want to miss. I mean, Pella Christian, great rivalry. I know the place was packed. I'm sure it was, and those are the games you want to do. So that's why I was kind of waiting out till about noon, 12:30 to think I think I can do this. And then when I knew the point where I can't do it, and it would make it a lot worse for everybody else, it was like, we got to find somebody now. So I missed doing that game. That would have been a fun one.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere, not to rub it in, Jim, but like I said, it was completely full. It had a sub-state type feel to it. And both student sections were amazing, top to bottom in the stands. I think Pella was wearing NBA jerseys, and I don't remember what Pella Christian was wearing, but they were doing dances and stuff and choreography at their timeouts and stuff. So it was loud. And honestly, the crowds were fantastic. I mean, maybe, Pella's a knowledgeable basketball town, I think, everybody would agree. And man, it went great. It was a lot of fun. So shout out to Pella and Pella Christian. That was a fun night.
For sure. Yeah, we also had another weird thing happen in the same game. Remember that, Ben?
What was that?
Pella girl she drives to the hoop.
Oh, yeah.
She gets stuck underneath the hoop and kind of throws up a prayer of a shot. And Ben, you're at lead. I'm at trail. I think Casey's at C. And the ball goes up through the cylinder enough to where you can see daylight between the ball and the rim, and then it comes down through the cylinder again. I was completely caught off guard.
Yeah.
Casey, I think the same. So we didn't put a whistle on it. And Ben, of course, he's at lead. He's under the hoop. He has no knowledge of it. So, but we did look it up, and turns out what we should have done is blow it dead and have a violation go the other way. But one of those things that you don't even think about.
Yep. And no points were scored, so everything was correct. And I think, for people that don't understand, when I'm lead, I'm under the basket. I'm generally looking into the floor at contact is usually my number one priority. So, and I can't see with the backboard and stuff, what's happening with the rim. So, but yeah, should have had a violation there, but it didn't. Again, we didn't have points, and everything was fine. But it was like Bizarro World Day starting with you, Jim. It was all karma.
Yep.
I started off the bad juju.
Yep, for sure. So that night, though, I would say, ended on a real positive, though, and we talk a lot about the hospitality we see as officials. And one thing that I didn't really know what we were looking at here until I did a little bit of research afterwards. But I'm going to show you what Casey and Sam and I received here. We got these little pink bags, and it talks about this random act of kindness was done in memory of Millie Rose Zelmer. And, there's a place there to go to their website. And I think if you guys maybe recall, about a year ago in February, there was a little girl that was sledding in Pella, and she slid out into the street and got, I think, hit by a truck and ultimately passed. And so her family, if you go to milliemoments.com online, kind of has a site where you can donate, and it talks about her and different things. And then they have a Facebook group called Millie Moments. And basically what they're encouraging is, everyone to engage in random acts of kindness, because Millie spread so much love and kindness in the world. So somebody did that for us at Pella, and I thought that was fantastic. And so I encourage you to maybe, do something kind for a stranger this week, or, whatever in your life. But I wanted to show you kind of what was in that bag for us here. Nice of them to give us some snacks and a drink here, and just pretty cool. So, and then they've got one other little thing here that people can put out. You can go on their website and download these cards and do something and hand out these cards so they can learn a little bit about Millie and what's going on. So wanted to give a shout out to them and her family, and thinking about you, and I think that's a pretty cool thing that they did for us. So
yeah, very, very, very nice.
Yeah, that's very neat. I've known about a lot of this. The family, some of them are originally from the Twin Cedars area.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of Zelmers there and that. So I know kind of the family and that, and it was very tragic last year. But boy, have they turned this into something that is positive and just spreading kindness. What a great thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it asks for you to report back kind of on their Facebook page. So I'll probably do that just to say, that we saw it and appreciated it, and, hoping to pass it on. So,
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. The next night we were all the way back to playoffs, I think, right? Nope, we weren't.
Nope. Central Decatur.
All right. So Tuesday the 6th. Yeah. we had the gang back together. Jim got healthy again finally.
Yeah.
And he felt good. He told us, I
good. Did. I felt good. Lost some weight.
Well, we know.
I don't know if we've talked about Central Decatur before, but it's always great to go there because they treat you like family, basically. You know, Bonnie Clark, Zach Clark, they take amazing care of you. You always get a hug from Bonnie, and it doesn't matter whether you're there for the first time or 100 times. They just appreciate the heck out of officials. So that was fun. So
yep, it was.
And we always get good food, walking tacos that night. We did have popcorn. We haven't had a popcorn rating for a while. 5'9" for me. Jim, you were 5'5", and Sam 5.2. So could have been better, but end of the night, you know, we get it.
Yep.
But it was something.
Yes.
And then we got to our first postseason game on that Thursday, Sam and I. So this is the 8th. And we're going to talk later in the podcast about kind of how the whole postseason process works a little bit here. But our first postseason game was Sam and I and Justin Miller. And he's a good young official out of Stanton. And it was Mount Aaron Sydney girls. Had a nice night. You know, of course, Scott Giles down there. We had he takes care of the officials, obviously. And he has like a student ambassador group that greets you, saves you a parking space, gives you like a gift bag that has, you know, a cheeseburger, chips, Slim Jims, some candy. It was popcorn. Popcorn was great.
That's what Jim turned into after he was sick. Slim Jim.
For sure. For sure. So we appreciate that down there. And then our next night was the 9th. We had the gang back together. It was kind of a long trip for us. We went all the way down to Oskaloosa, and we had Oskaloosa and Norwalk. And what we ended up doing that night, and we may have hinted this online, our owner of kind of Three Beards Media went with us, Chris Shipley. And I was going to have him on after the break here, but since we're already at 6:30, I think I'll just bring him on right now.
Yeah, sounds good.
We'll just talk about the night. All right.
Jump on ship.
Oh, hold on. Hey,
there he is.
Hey, what's up? How are you guys?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Not bad.
Good.
Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, that's way better. I did not want to see that big picture of Ben on there.
I didn't either.
It's like, well, that's clear who's the most important person over here.
Yeah, no kidding. We all know that, don't we, Sam?
Yeah.
Jerks.
Right?
If there was a way I could get rid of Jim right now, I sure would.
I know,
you know you can.
No, that's not good either.
No, let's keep it there.
That's pretty good.
That's perfect.
So, Ship, you know, we kind of gave you the whole gamut of a night together with us. I picked you up on the way. We went and met, you know, Sam and Jim on the way down there, rode together. We did pregame, we did the game, we did postgame, drove home. Talk about it a little bit, I guess, just from your perspective as an outsider, you know, rolling with us for the first time and what it looked like to you, or things that surprised you, or whatever. Just talk about it a little bit.
I think there's a lot that goes into it that you don't realize. Number one, first of all, Sam was on time. Apparently that doesn't happen very often. So
thank you. Thanks for the shout out, Ship.
You guys can thank me. So I'm sure he wanted to impress me. I'm sure that's what it was.
For sure.
No, I think I told you guys this on the way home when we were in pregame before the girls' game. You kind of identified playing style and the players, and so not that you adjust your officiating based off of who's playing, because I think that's a bad narrative, but you are cognizant of this team likes to drive the basket, things like that. Make sure you're calling a foul when it's actually a foul and not just bailing them out because it looks like they're aggressive, or it looks like, You know what I mean? They can get a lot of contact, especially if they're going against somebody that might be a little slower or bigger or whatever else, and they're driving in there purposely to look to get a foul. You know what I mean? So I think that never really dawned on me that you guys recognize those types of players and the play style and things like that and have to be cognizant of that. From the outside in, you just look and you go, okay, well, you guys are just calling fouls. If it's a foul, it's a foul, right? But you don't realize that maybe there's some manipulation on those teams' parts to try to entice you to call a foul when there isn't one.
For sure. Yeah. Especially in the boys' game that night, I would say.
Yes, right. Yeah. And the other thing I think is you guys have two completely different types of games that you have to officiate when you're doing a girls and a boys game in one night. And to be able to flip that switch, I think is not something a lot of people realize. The girls game and the boys game is completely different when you're officiating it.
Yep. Yeah, that's very good.
Yep. And even, the girls game had one of the Oskaloosa players is what? She's 6'4"? 6'4"?
I thought it said 6'4" in the program. Yeah.
I think that's right. So that's just a really unique situation in a girls game in Iowa. You don't see that very often. So that we just wanted to make sure that we talked about verticality and not punishing her for blocking shots because she was obviously going to block shots.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing to do if you can identify your players, and we have lots of resources now with Bound and video and different things that you can do that in advance. And I just think it's wise to not go into a game, with no idea of what you might be walking into. So
right. And I've been to a ton of basketball games. I've never went to a basketball game and specifically watched the officials. So a couple things that struck me was I'm 53 years old. I had no idea that somebody had 10 seconds to shoot a free throw. I'm watching Jim count with both hands. He needs all his fingers, to get
Chip, you don't have to go along with these guys.
I'm sorry,
I'm one that gets all the crap.
I thought that was the shtick. I thought that's what we were doing. I'm just trying to fit in. That's all I'm trying to do.
Okay.
But yeah, I was like, why is he counting? And then I thought, whoever calls that, has anybody ever taken more than 10 seconds to shoot a free throw? That's crazy. But Jim's like, yeah, I've actually called it before.
Yeah, I feel like one time in my career, maybe I've seen it. And Sam and I were trying to think earlier in the season, we got to 9 twice in a game, right?
Yes. It was
same girl.
Preston.
Yes. Yep. So then we happened to we went and watched the game last Monday at Winterset, and they were playing Creston, and that's where it dawned on us. We're like, oh my gosh, it's that girl. And again, we kind of looked at each other like, oh my, it just never happens. So it's unique for sure.
And then the other thing was the rotation that you guys do. If somebody calls a foul, then I immediately saw whoever was at the top move down to the baseline, and you guys kind of shifted around. Now, this is not a dig at Sam. I swear to God, it's going to sound like it. But I didn't see Sam do a lot of rotating. So is there a reason why it was just you and Jim the majority of the time and not Sam, or what?
Sam's lazy.
Okay, see, I was trying not to make it sound bad.
It's okay. That's a fair question.
It is. So it all depends on, because whoever's calling it, whoever calls the foul is going to report to the bench, and they're going to stay bench side. So who was ever on bench side is going to replace that person.
Okay. So
it just happened to be probably a lot of the times that I was at the bench side. Ben was calling the foul. He came across. I went over. Okay. So we don't want 3 people switching spots.
Right.
So whoever's calling, again, is going to report to the bench. They're going to stay bench side. Whoever started on bench side will go to whichever position the calling official was at.
Okay.
In that, sometimes you get caught in that a little bit. There's times when we get to a timeout or something or a quarter and we talk, and I'm like, guys, I am stuck in, I can't get out of calling a foul.
Right.
Because it just feels like everything is coming at you. So
try
to rotate me out. Yeah. Try to rotate me out if you can.
I thought that happened with Jim a lot in the boys game. I felt like he was always the one that was reporting the foul. He was calling the foul.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We'll have to go back and maybe count on that, Jim, and just because we don't want it to be one person. You know, we don't want that perception is that Jim called all the fouls that night, because that's certainly not the way it happened. It may have worked out like that, but that's not the way.
And I don't know if that's the case or not. It just was more, I think I maybe noticed it more when Jim did it or what have you. I know that I noticed that it seemed like Sam was the majority of the time on the opposite side of the court that I sat on.
Sure.
So, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm not sure. Like, I've seen Jim and Ben switch quite a bit. I haven't seen Sam move over at all. I don't know that I even recall one time that you were out of that other position over there, Sam, but maybe you were and I just wasn't paying attention. But
Sam, he was probably in the sea all night, what we call a rocking chair, just going back and forth and not doing anything.
Right. I mean, now that Ship brings it up, I was across court quite a bit that night, it felt like. And I don't know exactly what the reason was for that, but yeah,
I thought maybe it was
just feel like that.
I thought maybe it's because you were the youngest and they wouldn't let you play.
No, we'd rather he move it more than any of us.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then the last observation I had in game was during the boys' game that the student section down there was pretty onto you pretty quick, Ben. It seemed like they were really on you.
Yeah.
And does that? Do you block that out? Does that give you a little bit of like, okay, I'm gonna call one here to shut them up, or?
That's a really good question, and we probably all should answer that. But
I'll tell you why. You answer, and I'll tell you why I'm asking.
Okay, sure. I would say that was the most vocal student section we'd had all year, and they literally booed us several times that night, right?
Right.
I guess maybe when I was younger, it probably would have bothered me more. But I don't feel like the calls that they were booing at, like, I missed. So I'm kind of like, they're just teenagers being teenagers, and it doesn't really affect me. Now, does the pressure build inside of me a little bit? Probably, where I'm like a little bit. Right. But if I show that, then that's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it changes the game for me at all. It's just kind of something I've learned to deal with, and every official has to learn to deal with it a little bit differently. I think if we'd had a real problem, like if they were calling me names or calling me terrible or something, then I'm going to go to the AD and be like, you got to take care of them.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess that's my answer. If it does that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys.
I don't know that there's a wrong answer. There's not a wrong answer. It's just.
I think it was during the girls' game, one of the times that all this booing was going on, and there was one particular voice I kept hearing, and I picked the kid out. I knew who it was, and I was getting ready to administer the ball on a throw-in on the baseline, and I made eye contact with him, and I just went, and he goes, I go, and I didn't really hear much from him after that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe, by just acknowledging, like, hey, I know it's you.
Yeah.
Settle down. But
yeah,
no words were spoken.
Yeah.
Nice. Good way to handle it. Usually, a lot of times we've seen this before. If we look at somebody in the crowd who has been a little obnoxious or crazy, and that you can just turn around and look at them for a little bit, and most of them will just plain look away or look down or talk to somebody else because they know that we've spotted them, and now they're embarrassed, or it's like, they're not near as tough as they thought they were to begin with, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
And my opinion on a lot of that stuff is I try to block as much out as I can. You're going to hear stuff. You can't block, and you can't say it doesn't bother you sometimes, but I always put in the back of my head, I know more than they do. So why would I let them affect the way I'm going to call the game?
Sure.
And I think, we talked last time about a game we had recently where we tossed 2 fans, Jim and I, literally at kind of the same moment in the game. And so to Jim's point where we try not to let that bother you, or we may have spotted a person, a student, whatever it may be, if it continues to build and continues to build, eventually we may have to take care of that game that fan if it crosses the line. And generally that should be done with the athletic director, but sometimes it's not, and we have to take care of it. So, but we didn't do anything specific that night, I guess.
We at our school this last year, what it's been really nice is our principal, she sits at the top of our student section. So she kind of takes care of anything quickly that if she thinks it's going the wrong way. I usually try to stand towards the visitor side because you just never know what's going to happen there. And I already know in my crowd who I might have to keep an eyeball on so I can see them across the floor. So, you kind of, if you do a good job of taking care of that quickly, it generally takes care of itself.
So the reason I was asking was because you guys don't know if you watch a lot of Iowa State basketball, but the narrative of the last few games has been that the opposing coaches have gotten a lot of technicals against Iowa State, and TJ seems to be handling the referees a little better. And the crowd in the last few games, specifically the Kansas State game, really made an effect on not only the opposing bench, but how the referees reacted to that.
Yeah, I remember I was watching the K-State game, and then it kind of affected the Kansas game next, I think, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Now those would have been different officials, but yeah, crowds are part of the game and can be great. And I even think the gamesmanship in the Kansas game, that's kind of funny, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. But it can certainly increase the flame in a game where we may have a coach or something acting up.
Right.
Would you say that, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we especially I would say, some of our younger coaches, that, they listen to some of the crowd and they think that, something is going on that we're not getting as officials. So they're going to yell at us the same thing some of the people in the crowd are. But yeah, the crowd can affect some things. There's no doubt about it. And I have told people this before too. Does everybody know where the word fan comes from?
Fanatic.
Yeah.
Fanatic.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're fanatics. I mean, we want them to be excited. We want them to be, we want them to understand the competition and the competitive nature of the game. We just want them to do it in a respectful sportsmanship manner. That's it.
Yep. For sure.
Because the louder the better. The louder the better.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. When you can't hear a whistle sometimes, that's kind of neat to see, because then you don't know what Grandpa's saying on the front row.
Right.
Because it's so loud, you don't have any idea.
Yeah. And the other aspect is when we were driving down there and you guys were talking about the other game that you had been at or whatever, and you were like, yeah, that crowd was great and the atmosphere was great. And you think to yourself, okay, they are enjoying part of the atmosphere as well, right? Like it's fun for them too when the crowd is rowdy and it's rocking and it's, you know what I mean? Instead of just being businesslike and like not tuning all that out, it's impossible to tune all that stuff out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I mean, you try to be a professional as much as possible, but yeah, I mean, we love the game, and when we have an atmosphere that's just loud and crazy, like Duke, North Carolina, man, like it just feels like I'm part of this. This is awesome, Well,
like when we were at Pella Christian, you were talking about those student sections, Ben. There was a couple times actually during timeouts that they would play Juicy Wiggle.
Oh yeah,
and the entire Pella Christian student section was doing Juicy Wiggle. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. And even at some inbound situations when I was near a student section, they were talking to me like, just like we were friends and stuff. It was pretty cool. They were good kids. So that was fun. So,
Yep.
What else, Ship? Anything else from that night?
I know you guys said when you wanted to do this podcast that part of the reason why you wanted to do it was because you wanted to talk about just the fun that you guys have on the road and the shenanigans. And I'm here to tell you, I really enjoyed just the ride down and the ride up, the laughs that we had, and the joking around, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm glad we didn't stop and go camping, but that's for an after dark. That's for a Three Blinds Ref after dark.
Yes.
But that's what I'm talking about, right? Like, we can make a reference to that. We all know what it is. We're laughing. It's funny. It's still funny 2 weeks later. So
yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it's not that way for everybody, especially if you're not working with the crew. But you know, the reason we do it is really because of the guys that we work together with here, and yeah, sometimes the game is secondary to just getting together and hanging out and the rides back and forth.
Now, let's dispel the narrative here, right? It's not all glory and glamour. We got there at like 5 o'clock.
Yep.
We got there about 5 o'clock. You guys had obviously just left work, so it wasn't like you ate anything.
Yep.
You went in, you did the first game. You got maybe a 10-minute break between the first and second game. Games
probably 5 minutes, I would say.
Yeah, maybe something like that. And then you're done maybe at 9 o'clock. You walk in there, they gave you popcorn and some Gatorades and a hot dog. That's the only thing you've eaten in like 4 or 5 hours, right? Yeah. We won't even talk about the check that you got, which is, by the way, they're not getting rich, people. I'm just going to let you know.
Shout out to Oski, though, for giving us our checks that night. That doesn't happen very often.
Right. Yeah. Don't quit your day jobs.
That's right.
And then we get to the first Casey's because we all want to eat something, and it's empty. Like, there's nothing. Well, no, Ben, there was like 3 pieces of pizza, and as hungry as we were like, I think we're going to pass on that pizza.
It had been in there. It had been in there since 3 p.m.
Right. It had been in there for a while. And then as soon as we walked out, they locked the door. So we barely even got in there, so then we had to stop at another Casey's. I don't know that was any more of a better selection. So, I mean, you're eating crappy gas station food on the way home, and you're doing that, probably 2 or 3 times a week?
Yep.
Yeah.
So away from your families. That's a lot of time away from your families. And Ben, at this time of year, his job is really busy. So, I mean, it's a lot of things that people don't realize. And then when they go to this game and they're screaming at you and you're no good, and, and you just want to go and turn around and go, I'll give you 5 minutes down here on the court and see how much you fuck up. Right? Like that. Yes. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because we're friends. That's the truth. Now, and I will tell you, I coached before. I coached my daughter's soccer team. I can't tell you how many times I screamed at a ref. I mean, hell, I screamed at a 14-year-old kid once because he said he couldn't make a call from where he was. And I was like, the fuck you can't. You're the only ref on the field, number one. You don't tell me you can't, And my assistant coach was like, Chris, we're up 7-0. I don't know that you need to be getting upset. So, and the kid was 14. So
you're competitive. I love it.
I was. Well, we didn't win a lot. So when we were up 7-0, I really wanted to pound those guys. It's my one and only chance to win the sport. So
I mean, all of those things. It just is how it goes for us, and then in a couple of weeks it's over, and we'll be like, what the hell do we do now? Like,
So, your wives are looking at you and going, don't you guys got a place to fucking go? Why are you home?
Why are you still here?
Right. Why are you here?
For sure.
So,
well, Ship, that was fantastic. We appreciated you tagging along, and
it was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you fit right in. It was.
I found it funny that I drove all the way to Oskaloosa to watch my first Norwalk basketball game this year. So,
right.
I mean, I'm only half a mile from the gym here where I live. I mean, I could. It's a little ridiculous, but
I mean, on top of all of the things you've said, we had, bad student section, and we had to give out a technical foul in the boys' game. So, you got to see the gamut of it all.
Yeah, well, that kid, I props to Jim, because I wouldn't have waited that long. that kid was an ass. So, oh, geez. Now you're going to get me all worked up again.
These are the opinions of three blind refs do not necessarily.
That's right. my opinions represent Three Beards Media only, not the actual host of this show. I've probably dropped more cuss words on this episode than you guys have done in the previous 3, right? 3 or 4.
I think we've had 2 our entire time on the air.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. There's a reason why there's an explicit rating on the front of all these podcasts.
Jim's little class at Melcher Dallas that's watching tonight is
right.
like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Tomorrow they'll be going,
sorry.
Who was that guy you had on the podcast? Sorry. He said the F word a lot.
It's not my fault. I was not not there was a filter. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Kids, do your homework.
It's not like they don't. It's not like they don't hear it all the time anyway from parents or other kids.
That's what my Caitlin used to tell me. She's like, Dad, I go to public school. It's not. And now she is in the public school system, so she gets it.
Nice.
So
nice. One last thing, we did all rate popcorn that night, so you got to be a part of that.
We did.
And it was good popcorn.
It was.
It was.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Like, I'm 1 for 1 on the popcorn scale. That was great.
Yeah. Ship, your rating was 8.5 that night. I had an 8.6. Jim was 8.4, and Sam was 8.2. And that, as I kind of look back through our records, I think that's in our top 3 of popcorn for the year. So
Sam was the Russian judge on that whole deal.
Why does he always? he almost always seems to be the lowest. Jeez,
he's got high standards.
Yeah, well,
Jim.
Okay. Okay.
Don't make me get my dad voice out, Jim.
No, listen. You got good popcorn when it's nice and yellow. It's got a good ratio of salt. There was no kernels at the bottom. It was good stuff. It was great.
It was.
Yep. No arguments there. All right. Well, Chip, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
If you ever want to ride along again, let us know.
Absolutely. We'll do it.
All Thanks,
guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Chip.
You too.
You too.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, we're way past halftime here, so we better get an ad out. And
yep,
I have a new feature here for us as we go to halftime. Let's go.
Nice.
Why take the best corn in the world and make it into fuel when you could make it into whiskey? That's the question that launched Revelton, Iowa's most visible and fastest growing distillery. Owners Rob and Christy Taylor embrace the grain-to-glass philosophy, sourcing ingredients locally and overseeing on-premises production and bottling at their facility in Osceola. One sip, and you'll agree that Revelton's handcrafted whiskeys, gins, and vodkas are the best you've ever tasted. And with the launch of their rye whiskey, made with 100% Iowa-grown rye and corn, and their new bourbon coming soon, there's more Revelton to love than ever. Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. The great thing about working from home is working from home. The worst thing is working from home, especially for face-to-face collaborations with customers and coworkers. And let's face it, coffee shop meetings are neither private nor professional. So skip the trip to Starbs and investigate Gravitate Co-working Space. For more than 10 years, Gravitate has provided large and small office and conference spaces perfect for hosting meetings, workshops, or other events, as well as private phone booths for confidential conversations. Plus, all spaces include secure fiber internet, free coffee, and access to a kitchenette. All you need is your laptop. Gravitate does the rest. And renting space at Gravitate is surprisingly affordable. An hour of office space costs about the same as venti caramel macchiatos and breakfast sandwiches for 2. Daily and monthly rates are also available with no long-term commitment. Learn more at gravitatecoworking.com. That's gravitatecoworking.com.
Good touch, Ben. I like that.
Thanks. I've been thinking about that for a while.
Good job.
Only took you 8 episodes.
Whoa.
I'm sorry.
Oh, by the way, here's some advertising again for Revelton.
Nice.
Like it.
All right, so I'm going to run through kind of the rest of our games that we've had so far really quick because we're already at about an hour. And we want to talk about the postseason stuff, but on the 10th, Sam, you worked with George Hardwood and Eric Gilson at West Central Valley against Ogden, and that was a girls' postseason game.
Yep.
Anything you want to say about that?
No, pretty easy night. Crowds were fine. Teams were fine. Yeah.
Jim, you had a game that night too?
On what night was that? 210?
10th?
Yeah, that was on Saturday, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
I had Pella Christian and Cardinal Veldon. Worked with Rich Chaponis, who is longtime official. Actually officiated some women's Division I basketball at one time, and I worked with him. I've worked with him here and there over the past 10 years. And that great guy, great official, and also worked with Kurt Reno. And Kurt is also a good official, and we had a pretty easy night. It was running clock for most of the second half, but crowd seemed to be good, coaches seemed to be good, so players were good, so it went off real well. And Pella Christian, great place to go and officiate.
Yep. The 12th, we didn't have a game, but as I mentioned earlier, Sam and I went and watched Winterset just because we don't get to go to games often because we're working. But they had a playoff game there against Creston. I did have the popcorn, and I gave it a 6.8. And honestly, I think it could be great popcorn with a little less salt.
It's always a little salty.
And those Winterset people are not going to be happy with you.
What's new?
Wait till softball season. You go to buy popcorn at the concession stand. I hate to see what they put in it.
Noted. No popcorn during softball. Make it yourself. All right. The 13th, Sam and I went to Central Decatur for a postseason game. This was girls also against Southwest Valley girls. And Roy Swinger joined us. He's a good young official out of Urbandale. Had a good night with him. Underdog won that game. Upset Central Decatur and really had a really nice game. So shout out to Southwest Valley. Had a great, feast again from Bonnie and Zach. Some sandwiches and chips and cookies and popcorn. And the popcorn didn't get much better. I think it's end of the night popcorn, which, again, that happens. But, I'll give Roy's. He gave it a 4.0. So,
woo!
Yeah. So we'll have to tell Bonnie and work on our popcorn a little bit.
Yeah.
That was not my GPA.
We know, Sam.
Thank you.
Only if it was on a 12-0 scale.
The 15th Thursday, I had kind of my last regular season game, and I worked with Tim Osterhouse and Travis Carroll. And we did a JV varsity boys games at Centennial, Ankeny Centennial against Johnson. So that was fun. And then Saturday, Jim, you had a game. Sam and I were off again, right?
The
16th. No, that was Friday. That was Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, wait, you guys worked last night too. I went to North Mahaska versus Columbus. North Mahaska's got a really nice 2A basketball team. It was a fun game to do. They were quite a bit better than Columbus. Again, we had running clock, I think, at least most of the fourth quarter. Worked with Bryant Abel, a guy we've worked a lot with in the past. I've always said this. I think Bryant's one of the best young officials in the state. If I had to say, give him a term, he's just Mr. Cool. The guy everything. He's just smooth and nothing bothers him. And, so a lot of fun to work with him Thursday night. Also worked with Greg Davies. Had never worked with him before. Didn't know him. Introduced himself and told us he was the chief financial officer for Iowa Hawkeye Athletics. So that was cool to listen to some of his stories. And he was at the game on Thursday night, obviously, when Caitlin broke the record. So that was neat to hear about some different things and budgets and all that stuff. Their budget's just a tad bit more than what ours is at Melcher Dallas. So yeah, it was interesting, and he did a great job too. So it was fun working. It's always fun working with somebody new and that really cares about the game and does a good job. So that was fun.
I was thinking as I was putting this together, Jim, that we need to have probably on one of our next podcasts, with all the Caitlin kind of things going on, we need to talk about her and her career and when we officiated her. Just, I think, to, reminisce a little bit, because we did officiate her and she was freaking good.
Oh, so, God, yeah. Yeah.
Still is. If you didn't know.
Yeah.
But what a competitor. She was crazy. So
I was talking to someone today, like, you know how she's a nominee for a bunch of awards. I'm just like, why even have her be a nominee? Just like give her the awards. Like,
yes.
Give them all to her. She gets all of them.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. You can be Cheryl Swoops and not like her, but she has done more for the game of women's basketball than anybody in the last 50 years.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I mean, I can guarantee all the Big Ten schools when I was playing at their place, loves it when they're there, because it's one of the only times a lot of them sell out. So yeah, huge for the women's game.
Yep. I think I'm going to reach out to Kristen Meyer, her high school coach at Dowling, and try to get her on sometime, maybe this summer. She's a great coach, and I think she'd have a lot of good stories for us about Caitlin too. So,
yep, just saw her last night.
Yep. So, Jim, and then you went again last night. Might as well continue talking about that.
Yeah, I was at Dowling, Dowling versus Lincoln. Not a very competitive game. You can take a look at the score of it. We had running clock the whole second half. Dowling is pretty good, and I was amazed at the amount of players that made 3-pointers for Dowling. I mean, 15 girls probably dressed, and I'll bet 12 of them had a 3-pointer. I might be a little high on that, but there was a bunch. Kids coming off the bench, and they were just, they move the ball well, they shoot the ball well. It was amazing to see them. They're a very good ball team. I worked
Caitlin
with
effect.
Yeah, really. It is that kids, those kids that are playing now watched her when they were in junior high and upper elementary, and it's like, hey, I can do that, and she, they were just very good. And I Lincoln was outclassed. It just, it's the way things went. And worked with Travis Graven, who I've worked with before. In fact, one season I worked with him about 7-8 times. I really like Travis. Again, he is very smooth and cool and calm and calls a great game. And also worked with Eric Gilson from Boone, and we all got along well and worked the game very well. So it was easy to do. The only thing, I think I told Sam this last night, I'm just going to tell all young officials and the older officials, make sure that you have 2 whistles, put 1 whistle in your pocket. I used to do it years ago and then didn't. I bought 2 brand new whistles this week. Because I did leave my whistle bag at Central Decatur. You guys remember that, right? But I got it back. But I thought I better buy 2 new whistles and make sure I just keep 1 in my bag no matter what, that doesn't go in my little whistle pouch. So I go out and I get ready to throw the ball up for the jump ball. I hadn't tested the new whistle at all. And this is it. And here we go.
What?
Yeah. So stuck inside of here and all the way back to the back of the 2 holes is rubber. So it has a rubber coating around it here for your teeth.
Yeah.
Somehow the rubber is completely down inside of both holes and all the way back to back, so it's completely plugged up. So what does Mr. Referee have to do before the game? As I'm just about ready to throw the ball up and it won't blow, and I'm talking to girls and going, "No, my whistle doesn't work. I've got to go get another one from the locker room." You talk about, and people know me very well. I kind of like to do things, right on spot, and I'm just kind of when I get to doing stuff, I kind of get kind of focused. And most embarrassing moment I've had in a long time of officiating. So yeah, ran back in the locker room, and the nice thing about it was the whole crowd clapped for me when I got back out on the floor. So
how'd that make you feel, Jim?
About this high. I just was like, you got to be kidding me. And Lisa was at the game watching it too, and she knew that I was going to be very embarrassed coming back out from that. So classic. But I've never ever seen a whistle do that before. And I was trying to actually take a knife, and I was because I thought it was just over the top of this, and that was it. And I'm like, I can't. It still won't work. And I look back in here, and you can see that it is plugged up clear in the back in the chamber here. So there's no way to get air to it.
That's crazy.
So, that's how the night started. It ended way better than that.
And I wouldn't want you back if I were you.
I am. I'm sending it back. And not only that, Bob Neswald, who's an evaluator, was at the game. And and I asked him, first of all, there's got to be better games for you to be at tonight than this one. But he stayed, I think, through the first quarter, and he was going somewhere else. And so, yeah, I'm sure that if he's got an evaluation written down somewhere, he's going to be putting in there, make sure you have a backup whistle in your pocket.
Noted.
And I will from now on, I guarantee you.
Well, to that point, you guys always make fun of my large bag. Who rescued you with an extra lanyard and extra whistle, Jim?
You didn't get me the lanyard.
That's true. I had a lanyard, but you didn't like it, so we went with Sam's lanyard.
That's right. So I used, it was definitely you. I was either gonna hope that you guys had a brand new one, because I'm not using a used one from either one of you guys. As much as I like you, it's not happening.
Yeah.
I was gonna have to tell my principal, hey, I'm gonna have to leave during my prep period, like at 2:00, to run to Central Decatur, grab my bag that has my whistles in it, so I have a whistle for tonight. But luckily, you had an extra, and crazy enough, Central Decatur shares superintendent with Lamoni. Our boys were playing at Lamoni for their first round district game. The superintendent, I believe, took it over to Lamoni. Our principal picked it up and brought it back for me. So I had it for Saturday night at Pella Christian. So, yeah.
Nice.
Crazy stuff, but
you should have had, is it Dennis that announces it, Dowling, who's been there forever? Is that his name?
Yes.
You should have had him announce, hey, our official has to go get a new whistle.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Mark Amadeo, who is the voice of Dowling Catholic, who I've known and you've known for years, great softball official, and that, he's doing the radio, and he, as I'm leaving the game after the game's over, he stops, hey, and I'm like, and I knew exactly. I said the whistle was completely plugged with rubber inside of it. I could not get any air. I had to go get another one, and he's just cracking up about it. I'm like, I wish I thought it was as funny as everybody else did, because I did not think it was funny.
I've been there. When they do these games before the Iowa Timberwolves games at the Well.
Oh, yeah.
Arena. I don't know. It's probably 10 years ago. I was wearing my jacket, and I had my whistle in my pocket. And same exact thing is I went to grab my whistle as we are ready to go out to throw the tip. And somehow, like, I had a tear on the inside of the pocket, inside the coat, and the whistle got caught in there. And I was like fumbling. I couldn't get it. So you know how Wells Fargo is, where our locker room is. I had to run all the way out. You're basically running the whole court to get back to your locker room, get a whistle, and come back out in front of the whole damn arena.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've been there.
Yeah, so I will guarantee you there will be another one in my pants pocket. So it is there, and I'm ready to put it on if I have to. It won't happen again. And honest to God, used to do that. And I got to the point where I never used the extra one ever. So I'm like, I'm not putting another one in my pocket. Well, yeah, should have.
What if we just set one at the bench?
That would probably be all right too. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Sam and I worked last night also. We were at Ankeny Centennial against Sioux City North, and we worked with Michael Lawler, great official. He's a college women's official, and the game was uninspiring. Not quite as bad a spread as the Dowling game, but nobody played like they wanted to be there, so it was a little bit messy. But the takeaway I guess I had from that is Mike is a teacher at Nevada, and he has a class for officiating in the high school.
Oh, nice.
So we may try to bring him on the podcast sometime later and just kind of go through all of that and talk through it. But we thought it was pretty cool. He's, I think he said the least he's ever had it in is 5, but generally has a full class and is teaching those kids how to officiate. So that's just really cool. So glad to hear that.
Sounded really cool.
Yep. Jim, do you want to do Fool's Rules or we want to wait till next time?
Let's wait till next time. We've got quite a bit there, so I think we're good.
Okay. So let's talk about playoffs real quick. So we've been kind of talking about how many games we've had lately, just so everybody kind of knows how the process works. During the season, usually the first month, you have to submit a postseason request form. And basically that just says how many games I'm working, where I'm working them, so the evaluators can come watch you. Can I work these dates that are during the postseason? Yes or no? And you have to submit that. You have to be registered. That's pretty much it for requirements, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then really the postseason process, I think, as Chuck has talked about when he was on the podcast, is based on evaluators coming to watch you and then recommendations from coaches. And then it's just kind of a mystery. The girls union puts out and the boys union puts out things that say, okay, we have 5 classes in girls and 4 classes in boys, and they're going at different times and different nights. But generally there's something every single night once we get to postseason. So as we kind of talked, we haven't had a postseason game with Jim yet. Now, sometimes there's reasons for that and sometimes there's not. The first 2 girls games that Sam and I did were with a younger official. And a lot of times they do that so we can help mentor a newer, younger official through, some postseason games, get them some better experience, talk about how they can get better or what we're doing, that type of thing. So that's good. But it's always kind of a mystery on how the whole process works when we're just waiting. We all have different goals. Mine was always to get to the state tournament. And then when I got to the state tournament, it was, I want to do a championship. Some officials, maybe it's, I just want to make more money to help my family or, whatever it might be. So it's competitive, right? And so every day we're like, okay, what'd you get? And here we are. So it's a busy time, and we work almost every night of the week right now. So
yeah, thoughts? Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You just never know when a game's coming out, and so trying to look on your email and on the web or the app Dragonfly and see where you're at, where you're going. Finally just found out. I knew I had a game on Tuesday, and finally, I think it was maybe late last night, found out where it was actually going to be at. Didn't know. It was Linville Sully ACGC, and I figured it would be somewhere in the middle of those two because it's a 1A district final, and it's at Des Moines Lincoln. So nice big floor to work on. It'll be fun.
Yep.
But yeah, you just kind of have to kind of keep your schedule open and say, well, I might have a game on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday next week. Who knows? And you just go.
This morning, Missy was asking me, we always talk about, the upcoming week and games and everything. And she's like, so you have a game on Tuesday. Is there anything else? And I'm like, not yet. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it could just pop up, and she's very understanding, which is good. But I mean, that's kind of the life we live right now.
Yeah.
Yep. And timing wise, our two games, our girls game Tuesday, Sam, and then Jim's girls game Wednesday is really it. Those are regional finals to go to state. So we're really at this point kind of just waiting on boys games, which they try to give you, about a 5-day notice, but I don't know if that'll happen with games on, I think there's Thursday, Friday, Saturday roughly this week, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll find out and we'll kind of adjust as we can. So,
yep.
But anything else on that?
So, I mean, are we able to talk about the other thing that you found out this morning? I mean, I don't know if we're. I mean, I would assume everybody knows. I mean,
Sure. Let's do it.
I mean, I just it was disappointing today, but I've kind of come to I'm all right with it. We found out this morning whether we were going to make the state tournament. So this first time, since I had the heart attack that I haven't been back there. I didn't get to the state tournament this year. I did not. I'm not going to the state tournament. And and Ben and Sam are and deservedly so. I just simply asked. You kind of wonder why. And it wasn't, I'm not trying to complain because I've been fortunate. Like Ben talked about, goals. My goal way back when was to make state tournament. Made the state tournament in '99 was my first year. I was fortunate enough to get back in after doing a coaching stint. And then my goal was, just as Ben said, to referee a championship game. I got to do that last year. So, my goals have been met. I felt bad about not making the state tournament, but, talked to Chuck, and 19 new officials are coming in the state tournament. And so some people have to sit out a year. And if it's just 1 year, I'm okay. If it's more than that, I mean, I've done my, I've done what I've wanted to. So it's disappointing, but it's not discouraging. I'll be ready again for next year, and I'll be ready to, hopefully get there. And my goal is I really like to do a game with Ben and Sam at the state tournament because I haven't done it with both of them. So,
Same.
I'll still be up there watching them. I'm still hoping we do a live podcast from there. I'll be up there. I'm not gonna out and stay away from the girls' state tournament because there's lots of people up there that I want to watch, and it is what it is, and you just kind of have to accept it. There's going to be a point in time where they're bringing 19 new people in. That's awesome. I think that's great that we got new people coming in. So I was just the unfortunate one of the unfortunates that's, it's my turn to sit out a year. So,
yeah. I think, didn't Chuck say is there 60 or 64 officials for the girls' state tournament?
Yeah, I was thinking the number was 60, but I'm not 100% sure on that either. I know there's so many officials that come in and work just one game, and then the rest of them work two, whether they work a first round in a semi or a first round in a championship. So
yep. So yeah, this is always a really bittersweet day, and I've been fortunate enough in 19 years to have been to state for a long time, since my 7th year. And we've always heard, that there would be times that you would be rotated out, and I totally understand that and get that. But you want to be with your guys, and you want to have the best games. It's competitive. We're all competitive. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. So it's like, every official kind of communicates through their people, and like, who got in? Who did you get in? Blah, blah, blah. And we get to that point where, I haven't heard from somebody. And it's just kind of the reality of officiating. It's like anything else. Not every single person gets to do it. And to be fortunate enough to be in that top 60 is great. But at the same time, Sam and I are, pretty sick that you're not able to go with us. So this part of the business aspect of it, I guess. And,
I mean, it's you know, it's definitely, I would never take it personal at all. I know, I feel I know that I'm good enough to be there, but it's a chance for somebody else to work it. And, you know, next year I'll hopefully have the chance again. So, you know, I'm not, you know, I felt pretty bad this morning about it, or I guess early afternoon when I found out that you guys had got your email and I hadn't, and kind of, you know, had a little pity party, I suppose, for myself. But then it was like, you know, hey, it's not the end of the world. You were lucky enough last year to work a 4A state championship girls game that went into overtime. I mean, you know, what more can you ask for at that point?
Yeah.
So, you know, hey, I'm hoping you guys, you know, get something great this year, and I'll be there to cheer you on. Unless it's during the middle of the day, it's going to be hard for me to get out of school for that. But hopefully you have an evening game, and hopefully I get to see you doing a championship game, and I get to be up there and watching it. So, no, I feel great for you guys, and I don't feel sorry for myself. I mean, I am lucky. I've say this all the time. After, you know, 3 years ago when I was in January, had open heart surgery and 2 bypasses, I never thought I'd ever be on the officiate another game again. And I've been lucky enough now to be back on the court doing full schedule, and, you know, did what I did last year. So, I feel like I'm a lucky guy, a real lucky guy. So, you know, I feel great for you guys. I don't feel like, oh man, you know, those guys made it and I didn't. No, you always want your partners to make it, and we'll have fun the rest of the time. I mean, we still got, who knows? Still got the boys tournament. You know, maybe we'll get a game in that together. So we'll see.
For sure.
And there's lots of young officials that we talk to. You know, even last night we hung out with a couple young officials, and you know, their progress and how their career is going, and their ultimate goal is to get to state, and pretty sure they didn't make it to state. You know, so you know, there's a lot of happiness and sadness today on how that goes, and that's just part of officiating. And that it's no different if we were, you know, trying to make Division I or the NCAA tournament or whatever. It's just part of the business side,
process. It is. It's just, it is it. And, you know, I still remember when I was young. I know that's been a long time ago, Sam, right? But, you know, thinking, man, I'm watching that. I'm thinking, oh man, I'm seeing some of the same guys, same older guys up at the state tournament. I don't know why I'm not there, you know. And now I'm the old guy, you know. I'm the 59-year-old, so it's, you know, I don't feel as bad as I would for. Yeah, I'm 59, Sam. So, you know, I'm glad to see some. Hopefully, there'll be some. You know, the 19 of those are some good young officials that we desperately need in this. You know, in our basketball. So, you know, I congratulate everybody who made it, and, you know, I'm hoping for next year.
Yep. Well said.
Yep.
So we've touched base a little bit on what we got going on, and it's just a couple days here, but tomorrow I'm working first round 3A boys at Adel with Steve Scholes and Mark Peterson and against Atlantic. And then Sam, you don't have a boys game.
Mm-mm.
And then Tuesday, we're working a regional final for girls at DCG against Pella. That'll be competitive. And, of course, third time they play since they see each other during the regular season in their conference. So that's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Pelzer's with us on that. Jim, you've got a boys game that night, right?
Yes, I do have a boys game at Linville Sully, or not. It's Linville Sully and ACGC, and it's going to be played at Des Moines Lincoln. I'm working with Cole Osterhaus.
Nice.
This is definitely his first district final for boys. It's kind of, I thought it was really cool that he got that game. I think it's neat that I get to work with him on that first game.
Yep.
And also, why am I losing track of
Wednesday?
No, on Tuesday.
Oh, your third?
It's from Creston.
Oh, Dan Fields.
Dan
Fields. Man, I could not. But so both of them are. I mean, I don't know how young Dan is, but he's a lot younger than me. So it's nice to work that district final with a couple young guys.
Yeah,
And
it ain't hard.
So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be exciting for those guys to be doing that. So, and then on Wednesday I've got Panorama versus Denver. I don't know if there's any two schools that are farther apart that are playing a regional final. There might be, but that's a long ways away from each other. That game's in Marshalltown, and I'm working with two people from out east that I've never worked with before, Mike Federer and Dan Graw. So I talked to somebody last night, I believe, and they are very, very good officials. They obviously wouldn't be doing a regional final if they weren't. So that'll be also interesting to work with two people I've never worked with before, and I'm looking forward to that.
I worked with Dan Grell last year.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep, great guy, great official.
And 2A basketball atmosphere is fun.
Yeah.
Both towns are going to travel to Marshalltown to watch that game. Marshalltown's gym's going to be full, and those are some fun ones. I'll be honest with you, I like doing the 2A, 3A regional finals almost more than anything because it just seems it's just. I mean, those small schools live for that. The
whole town goes.
Yeah, I mean, they lock up and turn the lights off and they're gone. So, but yep. I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be a fun one.
Yep, for sure.
So, and that pretty much, I think that's all anybody's got so far is that Wednesday, and then we won't know. I'm assuming we'll get something Thursday, Friday, Saturday, one of those, two of those, all three of those. Not sure, but we'll get something there.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and then as we kind of discussed, I guess our next podcast, I think we're going to be live at the state tournament. We have some logistics to figure out with that. Worst case scenario, maybe we tape it and replay it or something, but we'll figure something out, I think. So that'll be fun, and hopefully we can be live. I think that'd be ideal. And
yeah.
So awesome.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, as always, thanks to Three Beards Media, Revelton, and Gravitate for their sponsorship. And with that, we will see you next time.
Thank you.
See you later.
You blow hard.
Did you think when you did that oh, hold on.